Okay. Thank you. Can you guys see me? Yeah, I think so. Right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining, and thanks for having me. I think AI is in top of mind for everyone nowadays, and it's not something which suddenly has come up. Over the last 7 to 8 years, there's been all discussions about how AI is going to transform the way we run our business, the way we interact with things, as well as how it is going to automate a lot of our lives in a way. But there are a lot of related things to think about when you think about AI, especially in the in the enterprise area. And what I wanted to do was just give you an idea of how at Google, especially in Google Cloud, we've been thinking about AI and making sure we have the right principles as well as the right kind of set of technologies to help enterprises get the benefits of AI, as well as learn from each other to kind of really do the right thing as you evolve and explore using AI in your business. This just to give you an idea of some of the things we have seen and what we're hearing from the market, and I'm sure you are also having similar kind of data being presented to you. This is just a data from McKinsey and PWC in terms of how AI will be the number one driver of global GDP growth. And this kind of has a lot of elements to it in terms of improving labor productivity, providing a lot of personalization, saving some time, as well as quality associated with AI related stuff in terms of bringing a lot of value to the underlying businesses, which kind of drives the growth and drives the GDP as we move forward in the future. But as I was saying earlier, that everyone will be transformed with AI. But the question always has been about how. There have been a lot of examples and a lot of point solutions where AI has become kind of part of those conversations and answers. But there's a broader thing to think through. And what I'll share with you in terms of how we are approaching the transformation using AI and what we're seeing with many of our customers and the things which are required to really make this successful and useful for everyone. So at Google, as many of you know, we've been investing and kind of doing a lot of research around AI. And the power of AI has made us very careful about how we apply AI and what principles we use to ensure that AI is used properly and effectively. And this has been a lot of deliberation inside the company as well. And based on a lot of the learnings we've had, as well as a lot of the input we've had from the industry, from thought leaders, as well as the impact which we have seen, we put together some specific principles in terms of how AI will be applied and what we will do inside Google Cloud, as well as Google, to kind of make sure we're applying this when we deliver technologies around AI. With a lot of power and capabilities available with AI, it's very important to be very careful and really paying attention to what you can do and what you should not do with AI as well. So this is just a list of principles which we apply. Anytime we have a project on AI or anything we want to deliver, we go and refer back to this to ensure that this is really top of mind and we're using this principle to decide what and how we proceed with our AI investments as well as releases around AI related products. So let me just walk you through this as well. So AI should be socially beneficial. We should be making sure that it is going to help the humankind and providing a lot of value and social benefits to the people who are going to use this capabilities we deliver. It should be AI should also avoid creating or reinforcing unfair bias. So a lot of AI technologies, as many of you heard, especially on face recognition, voice, other related technology, it can create a lot of bias. And it's important to kind of apply and ensure that this is not going to be creating unfair bias. Be built and taste tested for safety. So ensure again we're doing something which is safe and not going to create disruption in some people's life or the way world operates. Be accountable to people. Again, we are doing something which is important for everyone. Incorporate privacy design principles. So information which we use as well as information which is kind of generated needs to have the privacy as part of the design principles. Uphold high standards of scientific excellence and be made available for users that accord with these principles. That's kind of the what we should be using AI for. If you look at also what we should not be doing with AI, and that's an important thing to kind of think through as well. Applications should not be pursued which are going to likely cause overall harm, as well as principal purpose to direct injury. And I guess the idea is that it should be beneficial and not be harmful to anyone. And then it should not violate any of the internationally accepted norms and really improve the situation versus worsen it. And then also make sure that we're following all the laws and rules and conditions in internationally accepted norms as well. So these are good principles to kind of think through when you are looking at your AI investments, you're looking at what you're going to do with AI technologies, and really apply this idea and this philosophy to it before you go ahead and kind of go and deploy a lot of AI-based products or technologies in your enterprises or with your customers. And this has really helped us at Google to really ensure we're doing the right thing and feel comfortable with the power of AI being applied effectively and useful, it be useful to the humankind instead of doing things which might hurt and create more issues. So to kind of incorporate this principle, we also have been also delivering a lot of solutions to make it easy for customers to apply the value of AI without having to learn many of these things. So we have 90 plus products and features launched over the last 12 months. There's a huge amount of interest, and there's a whole public community now with 3.5 million members in the Kaggle community. And anybody's open to participate in it. You can get a lot of information, you can share ideas, and this community has become the thought leadership community for AI and AI-based solutions. And then to make it also very specific to a particular industry and verticals we serve around 26 industry verticals, and we keep on adding a lot of value and specific content around those industries so it can be very pertinent to those industries. And then, of course, we work with a large ecosystem of cloud AI partners, making our solutions even more pervasive and also building out the ecosystem since we can't do everything ourselves. And also, I think one of the things which we noticed is the developer community has had tough times keeping up with the innovation in AI and also kind of learning about all the underlying platform technologies and kind of learning about how to apply it. To make it easier, make it much more kind of pervasive in a way so that it can be adopted very quickly by developers. We have been also now offering a lot of AI-based APIs and the platform associated with that in many different formats. Be around site-based APIs, so for vision, video intelligence, all based on AutoML as well. For language, which is becoming probably the most important and interesting area for many of our customers, be able to do translation, support natural language, be able to kind of do conversation around it with chatbots and dialogue flow, converting text to speech or speech to text. And the latest thing we've added is around structured and unstructured data. And on the structured data side, be it around AutoML tables and recommendation AI, which makes it very easy for customers to now take AI on a structured data and apply all the recommendation engine to it, be able to manipulate data very easily, as well as incorporate that into your applications. So making the life of developers easier as well as productive is something which we really care about. And this is very useful for anyone who wants to try and get going without, again, having to learn a lot about the details associated with this. Just to give you an idea of the customer use cases which are coming up, and again, I'm sure many of you can think of a lot more, and you're probably applying a lot of these principles in your current situation as well. But these are 4 good examples to kind of think through. Iron Mountain, which is one of the largest companies out there for managing documents and archiving a lot of information. They are using AI today to automate document understanding. So they use document AI, vision AI, and using all this information and scanning a lot of the data and making it available, not just in physical format, but also digitally. And that makes it much more archivable for long-term, accessible very quickly. And the volume of information they can kind of make archivable as searchable has ballooned drastically, and customers really appreciate the ability to kind of do this thing in a much better way than you could have done previously. Similarly, eBay, which is one of the largest e-commerce marketplaces out there, they are using vision AI and the ability to kind of manage a lot of information coming through also agents and interfaces through translation or speech and text to transform the customer experiences as well. You can do a lot of matching as well as a lot of processing of requests through a lot of automated agents and reduce cost, but also make it more effective and supportable in many more languages than they could do previously. Rolls-Royce, which is one of the largest manufacturers out there, they are building out autonomous vessels and applying a lot of navigation as well as ability to kind of make things transport easily and be able to kind of process a lot of volume of data associated with the engines and information they have in these large vessels and automate that as well. And HSBC, again, one of the largest banks out there, they're doing a lot of work around risk management and looking at volumes of information in terms of transaction to be able to be processed as well as be able to ensure that they're taking on less risk and flagging a lot of issues and concerns on any transaction so that they can be proactively fixing things and kind of processing and making sure they're not doing something wrong and reducing the risk associated with that. So again, a lot of good, interesting examples out there, and you can keep on. You'll probably hear a lot more continuously around AI. But these are all real-world applications. They are changing how these companies operate, as well as improving their customer experience and making it much more valuable, or their services valuable than they could do otherwise. And the volume of information and things they're doing with this is pretty amazing in a way. And it keeps on improving. We learn about a lot of new use cases and we keep on adding to what we provide as our solution. So even though so many companies are using AI, as I said earlier, deploying AI isn't easy. Where we have seen many of our customers struggle to figure out how to apply AI into their daily business applications. So the things which we've seen is in terms of difficulties around how do you identify the right business problems to solve is difficult in terms of use cases. You can think about applying AI to everything, and then you realize that maybe there are some low-hanging fruits. There are things which can make a big difference, and picking that becomes an important criteria as you start learning and applying AI to it. Finding people and resources and the technical expertise around machine learning is scarce. There are very few people who have a lot of depth and knowledge around AI and ML and apply it properly. So finding enough folks who can really do that for you is, of course, very tricky. Data is scarce and hard to use. Again, you want to use as much as data to kind of improve your data models, you improve your AI models as well. But how do you find the right data? How do you make sure it's secure data? Make sure you're not taking anything which is private. And how do you apply that on a day-to-day basis becomes tricky. And then deployment integration is very, very complicated as well in terms of it's brittle. It's hard to productize in many cases, how to move information between on-prem and cloud, and then how do you kind of manage and operate that. So again, a lot of things you're probably running into yourself on a daily basis, but it's important to kind of think through and really try to solve for this. And this is where I think some of the things which we are doing hopefully helps you as well. And what we have been over the last many years is really focusing on making sure that deployments become easy around AI. We have a lot of AI expertise and products at Google, and I think we keep on investing and innovating in this area. And you'll find a lot of resources online from Google to make your journey using AI becomes easier and quicker and safer. And then, of course, we work with a lot of partner and technology services to add to our expertise to make it easy to deploy and ready to kind of deliver into your existing infrastructure, existing workflow. You shouldn't have to redo your business to apply AI principles and AI technologies into your day-to-day lives. We've also built very industry-specific solutions. And these are some examples of industries which we cater to, as well as specific modules and capabilities we deliver around AI as well, right? So be it in retail around demand forecasting, retail search, recommendation. Similarly, on healthcare, we're seeing a lot of demand around virtual care, telehealth, and that becomes an important element nowadays, as you imagine, with the situation around COVID and people not being able to go and visit their doctors. How do you make it safe to share personal information, as well as be able to do this over video conferencing? but also kind of connect that back into the lot of backend systems to manage the data as well as volume of information you might be collecting. Financial services, especially around anti-money laundering, know your customer, risk analytics. We're seeing a lot of interest around mortgage loan processing and how you automate that. A lot of the paper-based systems are getting more and more automated. Same thing on the media, entertainment, and gaming. Around media distribution, game servers, the volume of people who are now doing online gaming has gone up, and how do you really manage that volume of very high interaction and provide a lot of good experiences for everyone on the gaming platforms. Similarly, in the manufacturing around logistic optimization, given the delivery is becoming very important and everybody's expecting a lot of things being delivered to them now. How do you optimize that? Public sector, again, I think around things around virtual government, public health platform. We're working with a lot of public sector hospitals and areas where they want to process information around COVID and track a lot of data, and how do you really process all that things on a very quick basis. Similarly, we also provide a lot of functional solutions around contact center AI to automate the contact interaction, as well as document AI. So again, these are good examples when you're applying things in your day-to-day business, areas where we are seeing a lot of interest and focus nowadays around AI can be useful for you when you think about AI in your daily life as well. Again, we saw a strong ecosystem of partners. We have a lot of companies we work with around data science tooling, solution partners, SI partners, and we continue to add to them so that you as when you're thinking of using AI, you have a lot of the ecosystem being available to you as well. Excuse me, I think I have sun on my face here. It's early morning in Bay Area, so excuse me. So just give you an example of around the contact center services. And this is really where now with a lot of online interaction, we've seen a huge demand of automating that interaction, make it seamless across different channels, as well as be more productive beyond just saying that, what do you want, and be providing them generic answers. How do you automate and make it much more specific to particular use cases and the customer request? And this is where the AI-powered contact center becomes very, very critical and important for many of our customers. And we've been deploying that quite aggressively. This is a good example of a customer, Marks and Spencer's in UK, one of the large retailers, who has been using AI-based contact center to provide personalized customer care and interaction. They've improved their efficiency by automating 13 in-store switchboards and migrating the stock availability calls to central contact center. So now you have a central way of knowing what is available where, especially nowadays where a lot of inventory are required to have people be able to kind of find it when they're looking for something important at stores. And you don't want to go store by store running around. So you can go through this contact center to find what you're looking for and know where to get it delivered from. They reduced the store call volume by 50%. They're doing a lot of these things through a dialogue flow offering we have today. So that's another area which we've seen a lot of volume of calls being processed, as well as reducing the human interaction required. And then have enabled call center staff to do seasonal event related vocabulary into the dialogue flow. So you are learning and understanding all the different kind of interaction customers are going to have, and be able to kind of process and manage that as well, and keep on improving the language you can support and the vocabulary you can support. So again, a lot of automation, a lot of improvement, a lot of cost savings, and a business continuity being done through this contact center AI. So kind of to give you overall in terms of the principles that I talked about earlier, but how do you transform your enterprise with AI? And it's important to kind of think about this four things. One is to start from the business problem, not the technology. And I think many of you, I'm sure, are thinking about what are the business problems you're solving. Not just take AI for the sake of using AI, but also look at whether it can solve the things you are looking to solve, and what are the values you're going to get from it. You always want to think big, but start small. So you want to make sure that you have something which can be achievable. You can learn from it and iterate with it, to kind of grow from it to get to the bigger and broader problems you might be solving. But at least you have some kind of success which you can build on. You want to think of this responsibly from day one. And I think this is a big area of concern for many folks we talk to regularly. Is that, are you applying AI properly? Are you using it to the betterment of the society? As well as, are you really being safe and not doing something which is illegal, but also not something which is taking away privacy away from users and communities? So think of this responsibly from day one. And then that is where I think the biggest opportunity comes up, right? If you are applying for your business problem, you're thinking small, but thinking big, but also starting small so you can make this thing happen, right? And then you're just doing this responsibly can really make a big difference. So I think in closing, this is something which we see from McKinsey, and you'll hear this kind of number from pretty much every analyst and every other firm out there. But we do believe that companies that fully absorb AI in their value producing workflows over the next few years will dominate the world economy and improve their business cash flow, as well as operating margins and overall their customer experience and customer satisfaction. So AI comes with a lot of cost, a lot of complexity. But if you think about your journey properly, you look at the right tools and capabilities out there, apply that to your world, and use the community to kind of learn from, as well as be able to collaborate and provide a lot of ideas and thought leadership around that, and then go from there. So hopefully this gives you some idea of what we're seeing at Google, what we've been doing, how we see our investment in this, innovation in it, and some of the examples you saw from our customers in terms of what they're doing with it, hopefully gives you some ideas about what you should be doing and how you should proceed with AI. So thank you for attending, and hopefully you found this useful.
Thank you, Amit. This is Nivedita here. We've been getting a lot of questions while you were speaking on this particular topic. So I'll just try and quickly squeeze in at least one question in the interest of time. How are we dealing with cognitive bias that AI programmers inherently bring with them during coding? Their life experiences incoherently create certain bias that gets translated to AI algorithm. So if you could maybe share with us in terms of certain practical aspects as to how this is being taken care of, that'd be great.
Yeah, 100%. I think this is a learning which we also having for many years now as part of the investment and the work we're doing with our Vision AI or Document AI and all the kind of cognitive associated AI technologies. We have made sure our data models, the data we use to train our models as well, are unbiased, also are very broad, so that we are incorporating a lot of information which has, for example, data for images, including people which are just not of one race, right? So making it broad enough, are not of one sex, for example, and making sure we have people for every ethnicity, every region, every kind of profile, so that the models which come out of that and the training which the models are trained, or the training they get out of the data we use to training our models, are also very broad. And that really makes the outcome to be less biased. And again, I don't think so we have all the answers yet, but this is a conscious effort we're putting in inside Google. And if you see some of the progress we've made in there, around image recognition, about applying face, able to kind of match things, is based on a lot of the cleanliness of the data and making sure it's very unbiased information be provided as part of the model training. And it is still work to be done. I think the whole industry is struggling with that. But I think we feel comfortable with the progress we made there. And I think the outcomes based on some of the things we've done with the real world applications around contact center AI, where we might be understanding different accents and different colloquial terms, or learning about using things around different terminology depending on different countries or regions, has really kind of paid off in a way.
Thank you so much, Amit. And unfortunately, in the interest of time, we might not be able to take any other queries, but we would definitely request you if you could answer them offline. That'd be great.
Sure, happy to.
Thank you so much again.
Yeah.